His name is Peter Changulo. He still rubs his shoulder when he talks about carrying the heavy clay pot 15 miles to the river as a boy. Now, he watches his granddaughter fetch water each day, and he is haunted by two questions. Will this be the last generation of children walking for water? And who will help to make it so? Your partnership with the Ugandan Water Project can ensure that this is the last generation of children that walk for water. Our water solutions are effective, efficient, and sustainable. The need is real. We are ready. All we need is you.
Thank you very much. It's an unbelievable privilege to be in this room. And I'm looking forward to the next few minutes to bring our mission, our message, but also our community together. There's a couple of binding ideas that have sort of been percolating in the last 24 hours. Oftentimes in this community, we talk about relationships or rocket ships. And yesterday we heard Ryan talk about how courage is living your whole life with your whole heart. And it's interesting, rocket ships don't just go up, they often can go out, they can go in. But the idea is relationships as rocket ships transport us rapidly from one place to another. And oftentimes beyond our initial expectations or understanding, there's something cosmically magical about rocket ships, right? And relationships can do that, and it's not just the progression towards our goals. Oftentimes it's the progression towards intimacy. It's the progression towards vulnerability. It's the progression towards defining our limits and our impact in a whole new way. It's finding that path together to that courageous life, the life lived with our whole heart. And that's what I'm looking forward to exploring over the next few minutes. You know, it was about 16 years ago, I crashed a barbecue at a friend's house. I recommend that as a great way to change the world. If anybody challenges you on that, I'll give you my contact information at the end. They can be in touch. We'll settle that. But I ended up sitting across from a gentleman from Uganda, and I've always loved diversity. It's always drawn my attention, my curiosity, whether it's someone from a different background or a different part of town or a different part of state or a different part of the world. There's something incredibly attractive about the contrast in our lives and the commonality. And so I sat down and I was just curious, asking questions. What's it like there? Where is it? I was pretty sure I knew what continent it was. Sadly, I was a little bit unsure. But just trying to understand what life is like and where are we the same and where are we different. And even in that first conversation, there was something that grabbed my attention about the daily rhythms of life between his children and my children, and what happens after school and before school. And then I was asking him, he was trained as a teacher and as a pastor, and so his life experience was looking into the faces of congregations and classrooms, and he was well equipped and had a deep passion for stimulating the spirit and inspiring the mind. And he said, though, his biggest challenge was that he looked at the faces of congregations and classrooms on a daily basis who were thirsty and hungry and sick. And as we sat over, soggy paper plates and cold baked beans, there was something that began to bother me in a very productive way. As very quickly as I'm listening to this and trying to process it through the lens of my life, I started to think something should change. And very quickly it became something must change, even sitting there. And I've always found my value-adding community at the intersection of relationships and logistics. I love people and I love puzzles. And I'm like, this doesn't strike me as a problem that we don't know how to solve. And yet I recognize I probably don't really understand the problem. And so out of that conversation, I just couldn't let it go. And I started pulling the string to see where it leads and found that the problem was more than I understood. And the problem really comes down to two parts. The first part of the problem has to do with water quality. This probably is no big surprise to you. When you think about the water crisis in the world, you're like, yeah, dirty water makes people sick. And we see scenes like this where you see this young boy, very similar in age to someone in your life, I'm sure. I've talked to you over the last couple of days. Some of you have kids, nieces, nephews that are this age. And he's there at this pond. And you can see in the background, well, you can't see it very well because of the sunlight, but there's a herd of cows up in the far corner coming down to water as well. And he has siblings standing right behind me as I took this picture, and they're waiting for him to get the water so that they can walk home, and that's the water that they will use for life that day. And when we test that water, it doesn't just fail the standards for drinking water, it actually fails the test for safe domestic use water. Like children under 5 shouldn't even touch that. And yet that is what daily their lives rely on. And so that's the first half of the problem. The second half of the problem really comes down to logistics. It's the effort and the work and the time and the distance that goes into getting water from where it is to where it needs to be. In fact, humor me. Let's do a real quick interactive here. Everybody just hold up a fist. And we're going to count the average hours that a family, like if your family woke up in Uganda this morning, what would you have to commit to safe water? And you'd have to send someone in your family 1 hour. Go ahead and just count with me. 1 hour to walk to get water. That's the average. Families are having to send someone before the sun comes up to go fetch water. And then when they get there, we all are there together. We all show up together, and you have to kind of wait your turn. And oftentimes that's another hour. And then you have to walk back. That third hour sucks because now you're hauling 45 to 90 pounds of water. And then when you get home, you've seen the quality. Now you have to go fetch wood. And that takes an hour because the wood that was easy, you burned up years ago. And then you have to build a fire and bring 5 to 10 gallons of water to a boil. And let me tell you, that takes another hour on an open fire. And then you have 5 to 10 gallons of boiling hot, smoky water, and it takes, believe it or not, another 3 hours for it to cool. And what are we up to? And when we think about 8 hours in our lives, what does that equate to? That correlates, right? 8 hours, that's a work day. That's a good night's rest. That's the time that our kids spend going and coming to school. And so if you need to commit that, you savagely cut that out of your life from somewhere really, really vital. And this is what was happening as I was realizing what the problem really looked like. That lives are pivoting and hanging on this difficult decision of how do we get water today. And as I learned about this and was willing to embrace the pain of it and to let it bother me deeply enough to do something and not let it go, along with that pain, there was also hope. Because this is a solvable problem. This is not a rare tropical disease. This is not even cancer. This is the water crisis. And if there are people living anywhere on the planet, they're figuring this out. We are figuring this out. In fact, the global water crisis, as you look at it and you start to learn and look at numbers and data and all this stuff, you can realize that one of the estimates is the World Health Organization says that an additional $20 billion a year in spending would provide safe, sustainable water for all of those that don't have it today. And that's a lot of money. But the bottled water industry is a $60 billion industry. And I'm not trying to make any of us feel guilty for cracking a Dasani. It's actually very encouraging. We're already spending the money. We're already spending the money on water. However, there is a good invitation in that set of statistics to live an examined life and ask ourselves, how do we redirect that a little bit for the sake of those that really don't have it and desperately need it? But it's a solvable problem. Our solutions, just to share a few of them, just to give you an idea of what does it look like to actually, this sounds good, this is compelling, but how, right? If I'm going to get in this rocket ship of this relationship and go somewhere, what is the path? It looks like things like water filters that can last a decade and cost almost nothing, and you can put them in a classroom or a clinic or a home, and life transforms. It takes water that's incredibly nasty and in moments can make it safe to drink. I actually did that not too long ago on Jason's front porch while his kids watched. We actually he has a dog named Sonny. Sonny helped out, a little something that Sonny made for me that morning in the yard, put that in the water and drank it after we filtered it. It was amazing. Powerful solutions, very simple. Rainwater collection systems that can leverage the buildings that are part of community, things like clinics and schools and churches, the center of the flow of community life, and harvest the rainwater and deliver it right where it needs to be. Solutions that you probably have seen on social media or in videos or movies, hand pumps that pull water from the ground. And sometimes there's literally today, at any given moment, there's thousands of hand pumps that at one point were functional and have fallen into disrepair. And for a relatively small amount of money, you can bring that back to life and transform a community again. Or sometimes there is no source of water and we do have to drill into the earth, and that is a bigger experience, that's a heftier bill, but let me tell you, you're drilling through layers of geology and despair. And what you pull up is powerful and definitely worth the investment. And we're also looking to the future. I mean, the exciting thing is it's not just simple things anymore. We're actually looking and saying, how do we fill the real gap between the current problem and the life you and I live? How do we move society and communities to a place of stability where we can provide small piped systems and water that doesn't just keep you alive, but sustains the fact that, Daphne, who I met in a community last year, she wants to be an engineer. She doesn't need to be going to a hand pump. She needs graduate school. And she needs to have a piped water system in her community that allows her to not still have to walk to the community well. So we have to get in, we have to get into the time machine and move forward with our solutions. And it's not enough to do the work. It's great to do the work, but it's not enough to just do the work. I mean, don't get me wrong, my social media pictures look amazing, right? But that's not really the point. The point is, are we changing lives? And so being able to do the work and actually prove it, to collect the data, to measure, hey, are there more kids at this school than when they didn't have water? Are their test scores going up? How is maternal health improving in this community where the clinic now has water? Are lives actually changing? And so we've gone from just doing water projects to now we have a framework we call Today, Tomorrow, and Forever, where we say, yes, we are here to provide safe water access today. That is what most people see. But we also have started sustainable enterprises like maintenance services that create jobs and shift the long-term responsibility onto the shoulders of the community and help train them and build capacity to maintain their own water sources, focusing on sustainability for tomorrow. And then we realize that the context is also broken, and that as much as it might freak a bunch of entrepreneurs out to think about this, we do have to try to wade into the swamp of government and help fix the system that's broken and address water security forever. And so we do that. We help draft legislation. We help build national capacity. We help build national platforms for data tracking and things like that. But why? Why? I think it comes down ultimately to the business we're in. The business that we're in. Not just we that wear this shirt and punch a clock for our organization, but we're not, just as much as we're not in the water business, what is the business we're in? We're in the freedom and transformation business. We're in the business of seeing lives transformed and people set free from their limitations, set free from the bondage of poverty, set free from the servitude and slavery of solved problems and solvable problems. I think Vince and I were talking last night, and I said, Vince, how would you feel if I shared the news with you that 10 years ago we cured cancer? Anybody in here lost someone to cancer in the last decade? My hand's up. How would you feel if I told you we cured cancer 10 years ago? And somehow as a society we chose to allow it to persist. We're in the freedom and transformation business, and we know how to set people free. And again, this is not to come down heavy on us. It's about calling us up to recognize that some of these rocket ships are intended to go right into the most persistent storms in our world and change things and bring freedom and transformation. And we get to make this difference together. We get to do it in community. I love the logo, by the way, on the sweatshirts. Did you guys notice this? It was really cool. I thought it was very generous of Mike to build a logo around what we do with the 3 water drops and the little pile of pipes. I mean, he's a giver, right? But I'm gosh, I'm just coming up to speak for about 20 minutes, but man, yeah, it's all about water. I might have seen that a little different than it was intended, but we get to make a difference together. We all have a place to play. It's something we build together. We have roles and relationships, and they intersect, and it isn't a problem that is on any of us. Just like any of the issues that move your heart aren't just on you. But an examined life does ask the question, what are the things that I am called to be part of? What are the messes that I am supposed to be involved in? Where is my heart supposed to have dirt under the proverbial fingernails? But we make a difference together, and that helps us to be encouraged that it isn't all on us, but we do have a part to play. And we have seen the parts played. Just last year, we saw 100,000 people gain access to safe water. Over the course of, since I first crashed that barbecue, we've directly brought safe water to 500,000 people. We make that difference together. Some of you in this room have helped us make that difference and are actively helping us make that difference. Just last year, over 500,000 hours of childhood were redeemed by the time that we returned students to classrooms. That's over 50 years that we've given back to that nation, just in that one activity. That's a lot of time. 50 years. I've heard it even said today in this room, if I could give you an extra X number of hours a day, what would you do with it? Well, we're doing it. We're giving time back to a nation, and they're building the future with it. And that's what happens when we step into these solvable problems and do our part. Last year, that looked like 275 major water projects. Year to date, 184. But what does that mean? Let's just talk about one. One place that we hope to be the next one. This is Chisowuzi Primary School, has a staff of 14 and 943 students. And that building is at the school. But that is not the school. That's the school. It's actually not all the school because it's 943 students. It is hard. I mean, we were just trying to get a picture. Jeremy was trying to get the picture. I mean, we can't get 943 students into one picture, but that is the school. And this is where they're getting water. And so it's not about helping 500,000 people get water. It's about helping one person, one of those students, get water 500,000 times. It's about going into places like Chisowuzi and saying, hey, we're willing to figure out what it takes to help provide that catalyst so that you can pursue dreams. We talked about dreams today. So you can pursue dreams, so that you can experience this freedom and transformation. What you do with it is up to you. But the ability to set people free and empower them is a powerful opportunity for them, and it transforms us. So, how can you help? How can we help? I mean, you hear about some of these things, and before I say how can we help, I just want to say a couple of thoughts that really are immediate about how or why we should help. Because the truth is, I have a realistic expectation standing among friends and sharing what we do and how we do it with an invitation. I recognize that there are some of you who may be deeply moved. In fact, some of you are moved enough. Christopher and Jason actually, we've been building relationship, and something is harmonizing in their hearts. And on November 2nd, they're getting on an airplane with us. And we're traveling 7,000 miles to see it up close and ask the question face to face. And so some of you, it will resonate deeply, and you'll want to go on a journey that's more significant for a season, and that may be short or long, and that's great. But some of you, you'll go, hey, this isn't really my thing. Why should I even ask the question of why I should respond? Because I hope this moment leads us to a collaboration for those of you that you go, hey, this isn't my thing. I hope that this can be the 5th most impactful thing you do this year. Essentially, I'm saying, I get it, that's fine, but what you do need and what I need on a regular basis, and this is something what we just heard about, very similar, is we need opportunities to work out. We need opportunities to build strength and condition ourselves around compassion. And the other thing is, honestly, my guess is that in a room like this, knowing you in the way I know you, a few of us need hope that there are causes and organizations out there, charities that don't function like charity cases. You need the inspiration to bring influence into the causes you do love. You need the reference material to say, I need to understand what it looks like when our breed, where our tribe decides to take on a cause. What does social entrepreneurship really look like? How do I take the way that I go after my business and match that with the things that move my heart? And I think for some of you, there's an opportunity to pursue that and explore that with the way that we do that, so that you can then go into the things where your heart burns with that fire and transfer that. But one way or another, there's an invitation for you today for us to go on a journey. and really comes down to cash, kung fu, and broadcasting. Yes, absolutely. Do we need money? We need money. How much? More than you can imagine. But the truth is, the amazing thing about, you saw, we can bring a dead well to life for $2,000. 500 to 1,000 people get water when that happens. That's stop and think money. But the truth is, yes, what I can do, what you can do, is enough to make a difference. So yes, if you're stirred, that's one way. But your kung fu, your skills are needed, your experience. In this room, the most valuable thing is not the balance in your bank account. In this room, the most powerful thing is your wisdom, your applied experience, your skills, your ingenuity, your tactical knowledge. Honestly, that's why Jason and Christopher are joining me. Because as an organization, we said, what are the constraints we're facing? Who are the coolest people we know that know how to solve this problem? They weren't available. No. and inviting people to go on the journey to help solve the problem. There are things you know how to do that we do not. And then finally, the broadcasting, you have a voice. You have an audience. You have a platform. And that doesn't mean you wrap it around the Ugandan Water Project, but there's opportunities to talk about what this cause is doing, aspects of who we are, how we're doing it, how you're involved, what part of it makes you sing, and you can sing that song loud in front of the people that are part of your life. Whether it's social media or your list or just the person you have dinner with to say, hey, something moved me the other day. And before I share about it, I'm just curious, what was the last thing that moved you? What is the last cause that moved you? But you can broadcast. And so I would invite you very specifically, very directly, ask yourself in this moment, is there any reason why I couldn't stand up and commit my cash, my kung fu, and my ability to broadcast for a reason, a season, or who knows, longer around this cause? Now that QR code, for those of you who already followed it, you're seeing it. Our team has committed to saying, hey, we want to fill an opportunity fund to go there, see the problem up close, and deploy those resources immediately. And so relationally, you can be on that rocket ship with us by supporting that campaign and making a contribution. And we would love that. We would love to follow up with that. We would love to tell you the story of what we've done together. We would love to see how that impacts your life as you realize that together we are in the freedom and transformation business. So as I close, I just want to say, oftentimes it can be really hard for people that are driven the way we're driven, that think the way we think and engage the way we engage, to know how to approach the brokenness and the pain around us, the causes that we know need solving. Because oftentimes, they're not built to receive us. But I would encourage you, there is a way, and maybe the on-ramp isn't clear. Maybe the road to get to that for the things that you care about is not paved. But I'm telling you, you bring tremendous and powerful questions, incredible experience, and you bring the intellectual and emotional assets that your causes, the missions that you deeply love, desperately need. And so not only do I come and invite you into that as our organization, but I invite you into that on behalf of what moves your heart the most. There is a place for us. I found that, and you can find that too. The very last practical thing I'll just share, and this is something you can actually take with you, real simple, is as you're looking at the organizations that you encounter as entrepreneurs, as business people, ask these 5 questions. What is the cause? Is it clear? What is that big vision mission that grabbed my attention or resonated with my heart? What is that cause? That's a basic good question. The next one is really important. Does it matter? And does it matter to me? Same question. Does it matter to me? And then, what is their goal? Is that clear? If it's not, you might be able to help them. How are they measuring progress to that goal? A lot of people enter this work heart first and don't know how to answer that question. We do. How do you measure progress to goal? And then finally, how are they doing? How are they doing on progress to goal to reach that mission? Those 5 questions are powerful and are a great starting point for you to blaze your own on-ramp into the things that resonate with you. But again, my invitation is clear, whether it's because you are suspecting that perhaps you love this mission or because you're ready for the workout. I'd love to have you get involved. We've got some swag on the back table. I'd love to not take any of it home. Feel free to grab whether it's literature. The socks are a hot commodity. Yeah, Robert, yep.
Korean socks?
Absolutely, yeah. There's some temporary face tattoos. I think they only go on the face. But no, really, take something tangible that will be that reminder of our time together, this moment. And then also just recognize, hey, if you want, this is how to get a hold of me. We're very accessible. But I thank you for the generosity of your heart to pause and go on this trip with us to Uganda and into the heart of this issue. And I look forward to seeing what that produces in you. Thank you.